I am Parker Stevenson, and I'm the next guest On Screen and Beyond.
On Screen and Beyond, an inside look into the entertainment world featuring interviews with people from the movie, TV, and music industry, news on upcoming TV and DVD releases, and the rumor mill. And now, here's the host of On Screen and Beyond, Brian Zemrak.
Welcome to another edition of On Screen and Beyond. I'm your host, Brian Zemrak, and this is On Screen and Beyond, the show that keeps you updated on what's coming your way as far as upcoming new movies, remakes, sequels, and TV and movie DVD releases, as well as our interview segment with a guest from the movie, TV, or music industry. This week on Screen and Beyond, we have Parker Stevenson joining us. Now, Parker was in the Hardy Boys, of course. He played Frank. And in the 80s and 90s, he was on Baywatch. He was in the North and South Book 2, and also Greenhouse Academy most recently on Netflix. And he's just got so much that he's done over the years, and his directing and everything else. We're going to be talking about that with Parker in just a few minutes right here on Screen and Beyond. And on Saturday, February 15th of 2025 at 7 p.m., he will be at the Orinda Theater in Orinda, California, for a stage play presentation of Love Letters. He's going to be doing that along with Joyce DeWitt, of course, from Three's Company. So it's going to be exciting to see him on there. If you're in that area, in the San Francisco Bay Area, hop on the BART, head over to the Orinda Theater and have a great show, Love Letters, live on stage with Parker Stevenson and Joyce DeWitt. And Parker, like I said, is coming up in just about 5 minutes here on Screen and Beyond. And we've got a lot of things to tell you about. And of course, some of you are watching me right now. Of course, it may be after Parker has been on stage and everything, but hey, that happens. But if you're not, we thank you for joining us here at On Screen and Beyond. Last week, we did not have a show because the scheduled guests was affected by the LA fires. And unfortunately, they had to cancel. So we did not have a show last week. So I hope you've been listening to all the past episodes of On Screen and Beyond. And if you want, you can go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Podbean, all the podcast providers. We're on all of them. And you can go to onscreenbeyond.com, of course, or and to our Facebook and our Instagram. There's connections all over the place where you can get it. And now on YouTube. Now, YouTube is, we're sort of just moving along slowly on this one. We're going to be putting up a lot of the past video shows that we have had. And not all of them have been video, of course. So we've only been doing those for a while here. But just go over there and you can see it. We had a tremendous amount of people who are listening and also watching, of course. And Mark Farner, a lot of people are listening to that one. Of course, Mark was with Grand Funk Railroad for a time when they had all their hits. He was the lead singer and he was also the guitarist and everything. So great episode there. You want to check out. He's a great guy. We also have Jim Peterick, who was from Survivor, and also, he wrote Eye of the Tiger, co-wrote it, and Burning Heart, and Songs for 38 Special, all kinds of things. We have Ricky He, we have Bernadette Stannis of Good Times, David Payton of Pilot, who gave us Magic, which is now used for the Ozempic commercials. A lot of great guests are starting to be put up there. But of course, you can always go to onscreenandbeyond.com or any of the podcast providers, Spotify and all that, and you can hear the audios of those. Okay, so a lot of ways you can listen to On or see On Screen and Beyond. Most shows really, are audio only, and some guests don't want to do the video. They may be, on set or something where they can only do a phoner. So we, have to provide what we can get from them. And some of them don't want to do video, whatever. So then, of course, we have some that are now starting to put up as audio and video. So a lot of different stuff. It's just if you're looking for audio, something to listen to while you're jogging or working out or driving in the car, you'll always get that at whatever podcast provider you have, because that's our standard for the last 18 years. You can be sure to check those out. And like I said, it's on all the podcast providers. Now, Spotify is going to be having this one of two, and we also have the Ricky He up there on Spotify. For now, that's where it is. But YouTubers, you're going to get some of the older stuff that we've had. So just check them all out. It's just a good time. And no matter what you're doing, whether you're listening to it on audio podcast, or if you are watching it on YouTube or Spotify, whatever, turn around and subscribe. Okay. We are a weekly show. And generally, except, we have times, but sometimes we try to come out on Sundays all the time. But sometimes we have to shift for different things with the people who we were going to be having and everything. So you never know when it'll come out. Generally, like I say, it's on Sundays. But if you want to be sure you get it, you don't have to go looking for it and wondering which day it's coming out. Subscribe, and it will automatically go to you. So be sure to check that out. Well, we have got so much going on. It is time for remakes, sequels, and prequels right here on Screen and Beyond.
Please hang up and try again.
Remakes, sequels, and prequels. It looks like Kevin Costner's Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 2, gets its U.S. premiere at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. I'm sure sometime after that, they'll be having it in theaters. And Practical Magic 2 is still in the works with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock returning. Warner Brothers is currently working on getting a director for that film, so we'll find out what happens there. And filming has started on Supergirl, with Millie Alcock starring in that. And a sequel to Labyrinth is moving along with Robert Eggers, set to write and direct. And Ocean's 14 is in the early stages of development, so it's going to continue. And that is it for remakes, sequels, and prequels. Coming up next on Screen and Beyond, it is time for upcoming new movies. Upcoming new movies, Megan Faye of White Lotus and The Perfect Couple will star in Drop. It's a thriller in theaters on April 11th. And look for John Lithgow and Jeffrey Rush to star in The Rules of Jenny Penn, and it's a psychological thriller in theaters on March 7th. Past guests Jonathan Brownlee and Ross Meyerson of Torfoot Entertainment Group have announced the cast of The Yeti. If you watch that episode, listen to that episode, and you know what we're talking about there. Going to be a new movie called The Yeti. Stars Jim Cummings, but also starring alongside of him will be Brittany Allen of Dexter Original Sin, Eric Nelson of 1883, Corbin Burnson of LA Law and Major League, and so many other things. And we'll keep you informed on that as we hear. And that's it for upcoming new movies. Next on Screen and Beyond, movies and TV on DVD and streaming. Movies on TV and DVD and streaming. The Last of Us, the complete first season, arrives on 4K Ultra HD Steelbook Limited Edition Collectible. That's a lot of stuff right there. And that's coming out on March 18th. Wicked flies on to 4K Blu-ray and DVD on March 4th. Also on March 4th, look for Gladiator 2 as it rolls on to 4K and DVD. Red One with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and also J.K. Simmons will be hitting Blu-ray and DVD on March 4th. And on March 8th, Tulsa King slams onto Blu-ray and DVD. And The Penguin, the complete first season, comes to 4K Blu-ray and DVD on March 18th. And that is it for movies and TV on DVD and streaming. Coming up next on Screen and Beyond, it's TV and entertainment time. TV and entertainment time, the Netflix action thriller, The Night Agent, has season 2 streaming now, and it looks like they're preparing season 3 already. And February 16th, White Lotus returns to Max, and The Righteous Gemstones will end with season 4. That's it for TV and entertainment time. Coming up next on Screen and Beyond, we're going to be sitting down with Parker Stevenson of Baywatch, the Hardy Boys, and so much more. Parker Stevenson next, right here on Screen and Beyond.
Hi, Hi, this is Bernie Coppell. I'm on Screen and Beyond. This is Chaos with Don Schuss here.
Today on Screen and Beyond, our guest is known for many roles, including the 70s TV show The Hardy Boys, his 80s and 90s role on Baywatch, North and South Book 2, and most recently on Greenhouse Academy on Netflix. On Saturday, February 15th, 2025 at 7 p.m., he'll be at the Orinda Theater in Orinda, California, performing the stage play Love Letters with Joyce DeWitt. It's Parker Stevenson. Parker, welcome to On Screen and Beyond.
Thank you for that nice introduction.
Well, Parker, I have to tell you that it's a thrill to have you on. I've followed your career over the years, and it's just so nice to have you here to talk with us.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Now, Love Letters. When I think of Love Letters, the stage play, it's a tearjerker. I mean, there's no question about it.
Yeah, it is. It's also a uniquely interesting setup for a play. I mean, just the idea of writing this play that's a series of letters that are read back and forth allows performers to come in and actually do a special night and do it without weeks and weeks of performance and staging and rehearsals. And it's remarkable how well it works. It's just really a delightful, touching, surprising journey that you go on that for me, when I first did this back in the 90s, had a lot of parallels to my own life and relationships. And so to be revisiting now with Joyce and doing this again after all these years, it feels right to come back to it later in my life.
Mm-hmm. So you've done this play before, I take it.
Yeah.
And now, have you ever done it with Joyce?
No, I haven't done it with Joyce, and we haven't worked together. We spent about 2 hours talking on the phone 2 days ago about it. I did it with Kirstie Alley, who I was married to back in the 90s, and loved the experience. I mean, I remember it well and fondly, and the idea of doing this with Joyce on Valentine's Day weekend is really fun too.
Yeah. So comparing this to other stage plays that you've done, is it a big difference for you to, like you say, you don't have to do a lot of prep because you're reading the letters, correct?
Exactly. I started doing theater, but then I kind of slid away from it when I started doing more television and films, and I really don't go back to do theater because as time has gone on, I've become more and more interested in an intimacy about acting, and it's hard to maintain that in a theatrical production, especially in a big theater where your volume has to weigh up. It's really hard to do it. I admire people that do it well, but that's not where I'm most comfortable. So it's rare that I do theater, although every now and then I'll do something. But this is just a delight. It's a delight for the audience. It's a delight for us to do it. And that was the genius of Gurney's play. And I was always shocked he didn't write other plays, but I think he felt this worked and it was a special thing he created, and he didn't want to repeat himself. He wanted to move on to other plays, which are wonderful, but they're not on this format. It's not two actors sitting there that you may know or don't know and suddenly find their lives unfolding through the course of this play. It's really amazing.
Yeah. It's an incredible story, really. And with you and Joyce, I think it's going to be a great play. Just the two of you together like that.
In talking to her, I felt absolutely comfortable with what it will become, and none of us quite know what's going to happen that night. I mean, we'll do a read through, but it won't be with an audience, and we won't really quite know what's going to happen. And what comes out of this experience, I know is going to be unique to Joyce and I doing it, as opposed to Joyce doing it with someone else or me doing it with someone else. It will have its own dynamics and energy, and we each will be bringing ourselves to these characters that we're going on this journey with. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I take it you've never been to the Orinda Theater
I have
in
not.
Orinda. Yeah. It's a beautiful setting, and it brings back the feel of old Hollywood,
Yeah, yeah.
just being in there. And it's not a huge theater, so it's a very intimate, which you may enjoy more
Yeah,
because
I think for this play specifically, it's really important that this is a really intimate production. I mean, this little play going up, uh, it's you're so inside these people's lives and their challenges and their mistakes and their yearnings and all that. That if it's a big musical, it wouldn't work as a musical. Let me put it that way. It's
yeah.
got to be intimate in a small theater, and I was thrilled to hear it was a small theater.
Yeah. Now that you say that, though, somebody's going to make this into a musical at some point. You know, it's just going to happen.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure the estate would let them turn this into a musical.
Right. But everything seems to go to musicals nowadays,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So how many times have you done it? You said you did it with Christy.
I just did it with Kirsty. That's the
Oh,
only
that
time.
was it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. So stage and film.
Hmm.
Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I sort of long ago chose the solitude of film and television, especially film. You work with a crew that all becomes part of one group that are making the movie, and you're not projecting to the back row. You're not trying to hold attention on a stage. You're trying to find moments that put strung together make an interesting viewing experience. So I long ago slid way towards film and television, and that's what I've done as an actor, director, producer. That's where my sensibilities are.
Yeah.
Some of it's probably my degree was in architecture, and I'm a photographer, so the visuals of film and editing and composition and all that are just things that really matter to me. And when you're acting on a stage, that's someone else's creation. That's the director and the producer's setup as to how it will be staged and what it will look like. And I'm more interested in being involved in that myself.
Yeah. Now, am I correct in assuming that when you're on stage, your projection, of course, has to be out there? You said that, you have to reach the people in the back. And if so, it's almost like not that you're yelling, but you do have to be louder as opposed to when you're on a TV show or a movie.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah,
That
yeah.
it's you're
That is correct.
talking then.
It is correct. But even in doing film and television, you can't whisper so inaudibly that no one hears the dialogue.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yes.
I've had a lot of sound people over the years come to me and go, Parker, can you just help us a little bit? Can you lift that up a little bit? I mean, they're right to say that, and I should raise it so it can be at least recorded. So,
Mhm.
but that's always been a struggle for me.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. Now,
Yeah, my normal experience of life is not a demonstrative one. I'm private. I stay very much sort of in the things that I love, and that's a small circle of friends and family. And I'm not a particularly extravagant presence.
mhm. Yeah. Now, is acting what you always wanted to do when you were a little kid growing up? What inspired you to go into this field?
Well, I always wanted to be an architect, which is what my college degree was at Princeton. I wanted to build. Uh, I wanted to be part of the existence of three-dimensional sculpture that you can live in and move through and all of that. Um, but truthfully, I just hit a point in my early teens where I wanted adventures outside of the town that I grew up in. And I was able to convince my parents to let me go into New York City and try to do TV commercials, which was my way of getting out of the house. That's really what it was about. It wasn't about wanting to be an actor. And I got a commercial that summer, and that helped pay for school. And then as the years went by, I kept doing commercials, and I started getting other work. And uh, while I was getting my architecture degree, I was still going back and forth to New York and doing projects. And then I did some films, and that was great because that helped pay for school. But I had no interest in being an actor. It just wasn't. It just wasn't something I connected with until halfway through college, I worked on a very small independent film called Lifeguard. Sam Elliott was in. It was a little small independent film. And that experience was completely different than any other work experience I'd had. It was very personal and it was intimate and manageable. And uh, Daniel Petrie, who directed it, was just an inspiration. And then I went back to college and everything started to shift a little bit, you know.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I suddenly wasn't so sure about architecture. And then I graduated and I still didn't know. So I was going to the business school at NYU for like 2 weeks when I was called to go do the Hardy Boys. And so I then made that shift then thinking, well, we'll see what happens, you know. Let's see how long I'm out in California, and I'm still in California. I did let my place in New York go though
Yeah.
after 8 years.
So you were confident that you were going to stay in California then?
No, I didn't think I was going to stay in California at all. I was sure I was going to go back to New York.
Wow.
Um, just, you know, I mean, that's how life takes you. Things come along, and if you're really proactive, sometimes I've been really proactive and very deliberate in my choices, and they have not necessarily been the right choices. And other times when I've just kind of been open to what might come and things that might come along that were outside of what I was expecting them to be, those ended up being the things like Lifeguard that changed everything. That was a little movie, not much money. It's a quick, I left campus, you know, and worked for it for a couple of weeks. And it turned out to be significant and kind of a cult film. So,
Yeah. And isn't it funny that you go from lifeguard to actually being on Baywatch, which was about lifeguards again?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I'm an East Coast kid. I'm an East Coast kind of city kid, and ended up being a California lifeguard in projects, which, um, you know, it's just the way it works sometimes. It's just, you know, this business is, I, when I hear actors say, "Oh, I knew that was going to be my big break. I knew that's what I wanted to do," and I think, "Wow, good on you," because it's never been the case for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's always been much less predictable and things that actually really meant something long term were not usually things that I thought were going to be that. And things I thought were going to be huge and change my career didn't.
Hmm. Yeah. Now I was looking over your credits and everything, and I noticed that you did a role, guest appearance, whatever, on Gunsmoke way back in
Oh, yeah.
'74.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what was that one? I mean, I've seen a lot of Gunsmoke, but I don't remember every episode to be honest. What
It
did you
was
do in that?
well, it was, you know, that was I was in college and it was a quick run to New York to California for 10 days to pick up some money to pay for school. Uh and mostly what I remember what I remember about it was I didn't get to play a cowboy, you know, or a gunslinger or, you know, Billy the Kid at 16. I played this kid that's actually coming from Harvard in a stagecoach and he gets out in Dodge City and he's being set up with some girl. But so I'm dressed up like, you know, an East Coast dandy silly story, but fun. And Dodge City was a full set in the soundstage. And when the horses would, you know, go to the bathroom, someone would run out with a shovel and scoop it up and run away again. And it was like, oh, this is how they do this. But it was fun. You know, those were just fun little brief experiences that helped me get through school, really.
You say it was when you were in college. You were which?
I did commercials all the way through uh, high school. And then I did a separate piece, which was the first movie that I ever did. That was in the winter of my senior year and then summer after I graduated. And then after that is when some of these other projects came along.
Hello, this is Patrick Duffy, and I'm on Screen and Beyond.
It's funny to look back at people's careers and see the things that they've done over time. And now you mentioned the Hardy Boys. How did you come about that process of getting that job?
Um, I think they've been casting for a long time and they were having trouble getting the cast set. Um, I think they were pretty set on Sean when I went out because they had me screen test with him. Uh, and it was a good pairing because he and I have a really similar sense of humor, and it's kind of dry and kind of teasing. But at the same time, we're totally different. I mean, we're like, perfect brothers. One brother's like this, but the other brother's like that, and we really were that way. And we still are really good friends. I love his company. I love seeing him. We laugh a lot, and that was the show. I think that's what made it work and why then I got cast. I think he was the first person set on the show, and I was the last person set on the show.
Hmm. Yeah. I was looking to see if anybody was streaming that, but I couldn't find anything,
Yeah, it shows. So sometimes it's up and sometimes it's not. I lose track with all the different streaming services. I lose track of what's showing where. And that show, we the mandate was okay. The executive producer had one day to shoot, a presentation. And so he shot 24 hours. He didn't shoot 12 hours. He shot 24 hours. We shot round the clock. And he ended up with 20 minutes of a 45-minute show to show the network. So he basically had half the show in one
Wow.
day. And that got picked up to go to series. But the pickups are always 6 episodes at a time. And we went 3 years with 6 episodes, 6 episodes. We never got like a big comfortable pickup that where we felt, the show was definitely set. And it was always about to be canceled all the way through, even though
Hmm.
it was doing well. And then eventually did get canceled.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed
Uh,
the show. It was a good
yeah,
show.
no, it was great. It was hysterical to do, and Sean was hysterical, and we goofed around in the back lot as kids a lot because the studio tour was just starting, and the trams were just starting, and we would sneak off in the back lot during lunch and trigger Jaws and the Great Flood and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like it was a fun set to be on
It
then.
was a really fun set. Yeah,
Yeah.
really fun.
Hmm. Well, that show, of course, was it alternated, if I remember right, with the Nancy Drew mysteries. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, but I was looking at it, and you did 48 episodes, I believe, of that, something like that. And nowadays, and my audience is going to say, "Oh, he's talking about this again," but but nowadays, 48 episodes would be like 5, 6 years, I mean,
yeah,
because
yeah,
everything is, six episodes, 10 episodes at the most,
yeah,
so, but
yeah. The whole mechanism was different then.
yeah.
No, that was a great experience. It was really fun. It was a great experience and really kind of got me really going and got me to kind of focus more on, okay, maybe this is what I'm going to do now. I still kind of wasn't sure, but I didn't go back when that show ended, which is what the original plan was. Um, and look, I've been really lucky. I mean, I've been up and down more times than I can count, and I've had more breaks that were just, godsends than I can count. And I think that's a lot of it. What I always wanted was I wanted, if I was going to do this, I wanted to do it my whole career, my whole life. I wanted it to be something that I stayed with and didn't just do for a little while. And it's now been 58 years I've been
Wow.
doing.
Jeez. Now, with the Hardy Boys, were you thrown into the teen magazines and all that? So could you walk down the street without somebody running after you?
Not during that time, but honestly, I think a lot of that was Sean singing. Sean's music took off and that became huge and that helped keep the show on. And so the all that energy, the fan energy of the t-shirts and lunch boxes and posters and stuff, I really attribute a lot of that to Sean and what he was doing.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, what about Baywatch? When there we are on another big show, Baywatch.
Baywatch, um, it was a clever idea with a really fun cast and a fun group of producers. But again, to me, David was this energy and this central presence in the show that more and more became the show and is what kept the show going all that time. I mean, that's David. David is that guy that walks in the room and everybody goes, "Oh my God, that's David Hasselhoff." I walk in the room and no one cares.
Oh, come on.
Nobody cares. No, no, I'm serious. I walk in, I sit down, and I have my dinner, and maybe someone comes up, maybe not, but David just has that spirit that it really is a magical thing, and I love working with him. I left the show, and then he talked me into going back to the show, and then I started directing the show, and then he talked me into going, appearing back in the show, and so then I had several years of being in and out and working with, but because of David, I love working with David.
Yeah. So directing, what would you consider to be your favorite show or movie or whatever that you directed?
Um, Melrose Place was fun because that was such an event also. And it was a solid cast. They could work fast and they could work quickly and bring something, surprising to it. Really good people. Um, uh, Specifically, Daphne Zuniga was great to work with. Courtney Thorne Smith was great. I mean, all the cast. It's a big cast, but that was just fun to do. And I was working for Aaron Spelling a lot. He had a bunch of shows. Models Inc. was a show I did for him, and Savannah was another show I did for him. He had me in rotation doing,
Hmm.
it's about 3 weeks for a show because you prep a week, shoot a week, edit a week, and so every 3 weeks was plugging me back into a show. I did that for a couple of years.
Yeah. Now,
It's
am I correct
terrific.
that back in the way back, a director would go and do the whole series? Is that correct? And then they changed to having, a rotation of directors. Is that?
I never experienced that. All the shows that I've worked on since the 70s on have always because the workload's hard, and they would rotate directors all the time. I mean, you might, if they had someone they really love, they might direct every third one, every fourth one, and do, four of a season, five of a season, but that's unusual.
Yeah.
Because if you're on set directing, you can't be scouting, you can't be casting, you can't be editing. So that's how it broke down.
Yeah. Is it difficult to do that though? I mean, to keep the consistency of the show with a different person at the helm?
In television, it's not because the control in television is the producers, not the director.
Oh,
Coming as a director, the show has a look, it's got a pace, it's got the stories all set. When you come in, you can tweak scenes, you can make suggestions on stuff, but basically, you're serving the mechanism of what they set up. A Dick Wolf show is a Dick Wolf show, and if a director came in and tried to change that up and change the tone of it or the look of it, well, I don't think he'd be back. That's just not why you get hired. That's television. In film is different. Film, you are asked to bring a vision for what the material is. That's
yeah.
just a different thing.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned in the opening that, you did Hardy Boys and the North and South Book to Melrose Place, Baywatch, and on and on. Do you have a favorite show that you've been on?
Uh, in some ways, there was a project I did that was a pilot for a series that did not go to series. I've had a couple of those. I mean, actually, I have quite a few of those that didn't go. Rock Hopper was a series I loved doing. It went a season and got canceled.
I remember that.
Uh, it was just a smart. It was Isaac Asimov was involved in creating that show and the stories of that show. So that just was a smart show. And it was a 2 hour I did for Viacom called Avalon, which was an action adventure movie, but it was a pilot for series, and I love doing that. And that was a real passion project for me. It did well, ratings were good, reviews were good, but ultimately didn't go to series, which I was really disappointed with because we shot 40% of it underwater out in Catalina, and we had submersibles and submarines and diving, and it was a whole uh, adventure series. It was like Sea Hunt, but in a contemporary issues and storylines, and
Yeah.
and that I was really proud of what that looked like and what got pulled off doing that. So that one I love doing. Uh, didn't go to series, but at least I had that experience of a year working on that and putting it together and seeing it actually get finished. That was great.
Yeah. I wish somebody would turn around and either have a channel or, but a show that has pilots or series that haven't gone, to the networks
Yeah,
because they didn't,
yeah,
because there's probably a lot of good stuff out there that we just don't get to see.
sure.
And I enjoy seeing those types of things, or even the pilot episodes of a big show can be
Yeah,
totally different than what we end up seeing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It can change a lot from pilot to the series. Often does. Yeah, I mean that would be a great independent channel on some streaming service. Pilots that didn't get sold to series, but are great in and of themselves.
Yeah, because there's got to
Yeah,
be thousands and thousands of those out there that we
yeah,
never get to see.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah.
now, your photography,
Mm.
can you let us know what that involves? Are you, do you have displays at galleries and things like that,
Yeah,
or
I have.
what is your business of photography?
Yeah, periodically I'll have a gallery show. I had one in New Orleans a couple of years ago that I was really happy about because it was about uh, the the event of Prince's second line parade when he passed away. And I happened to be in New Orleans then, and I went out and shot that more for my own uh, attempt to capture some of the feeling of that kind of event. And it's beautiful because it's old and young and rich and poor and black and white and everything in between. And it's joyous in celebration of someone who's just passed. At the same time, it's full of grief. So the level of emotion is just an amazing experience. And I spent the day out there shooting it, and then that actually became a show. Uh, Images that were huge. They were like 3 feet by 5 feet of these sections of the crowd at different instances during this whole experience. And something like that, really matters to me. Uh, that is it's and probably because it's one of the few times in a professional context that from beginning to end, it's just me.
Mhm.
I'm not having to get approval on a cut. I'm not having to get approval on casting. I'm not having to get approval to rewrite something or to get something. It's just me, and all the way through the process from beginning to end, it keeps changing. My work, even though those sound like a documentarian's kind of presentation of what happened, that's actually not what I do. Uh, I play with the images. I adjust the images. I'm looking for something more than even what I necessarily captured. There's something else, another quality I can find. I'm being a little esoteric here, but that's why I shoot. And I've often said, if someone wants to have a sense of who I am, look at my photography. That's the clearest expression of where my values are and what matters to me than my acting, because my acting is really serving everybody else's vision, usually, not necessarily mine.
Yeah. Now, do you think was photography first or was directing first or acting?
Well, I was shooting with, little Instamatic stuff. I was shooting, in the 50s. I was shooting everything, and some of the cameras had, the little box on it that would spin, flash every time you took it, and then they got hot and you got to throw them away. I mean, I was running around shooting everything, and still have those cameras, and I have a lot of that film. Most of it was stills, but still some Super 8 stuff that I was shooting and running around playing with, and so that's always been from 5, 6, 7, always been something that mattered to me.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until when I started, high school that I got in a dark room and then got to play with images, and actually adjust them uh, and all of that experience informs what my pictures are. I don't think I have anything.
I was going to say, is that one with the aircraft in the background there? Is that
No,
one of yours?
that's my father. That's my father in the Second World War.
Wow.
And what I love about that is if you look closely, I can recognize him in the little window there.
Oh, really?
It's hysterical. I don't have anything reachable, uh, but a lot of my stuff is almost surreal. Well, if someone's interested, they can look. I've got something called Parker Stevenson Shadowworks.com. That's the place they can see images. They're not my newer images because I'm bad about updating and posting stuff. Also, my Instagram started out only as for my photography, and then quickly started to have announcements of projects I was in or other pictures that went up, and then it started to shift a little bit into just kind of a little bit of everything. But especially the earlier stuff on my Instagram, you can see a lot of my photography.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Now, so being a photographer must have a lot of help to your directing because you're having that visual sense, I presume.
Yeah, I mean, I never wanted to direct because I don't like making decisions. I hate making decisions. But what I found when I finally did direct, uh, thank you, David, because he talked me into it, was that the same sensibilities that I'm obsessed with, in still photography. It's the same thing because you literally, if you raise the camera a little bit or lower it just a little bit or just move that little piece there over there, suddenly it's right. And for me, there is a right and there is a not quite right. And finding what's right in that image doesn't mean it's necessarily traditionally composed. It doesn't mean it's even the subject matter, but somehow it's right. And that's what I discovered directing, that the world looks right to me through a camera, whether it's a motion picture camera and you're shooting film or whether it's a still camera. And that's been the hunt, is how the world is chaotic and it's messy and it's often confusing, but somewhere in there, there's beauty and it's based on some kind of a balance of things. And that's ultimately what's underneath the acting too, in the midst of everything else, looking for a moment, just even an instant. When I do a project, if I have two moments in that project, this is for me. I'm sure Pacino has a lot of them. But for me, if I have one or two moments in a project that I've acted in that are right, they're just right, then I'm happy because it's hard to get to. It's hard to find it. It's hard to protect it. It's hard. It doesn't necessarily make it into the final cut because other people may not get what you're doing. So with the still photography, it's the same thing. If I put an image up, it's because something is right about it for me, and I believe that also communicates to others.
Yeah. 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 I mean, if it doesn't feel something to you, it's not going to feel anything to somebody else because you, have it's got to mean something to you in order
Yeah,
to give
yeah.
it what it has to have.
And I do think there are certain values, especially aesthetic visual ones. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the West or the East. It doesn't matter if it's, Oriental art or European art. There's certain values that are right. The Impressionists found Japanese prints to be essential in what they were doing. They incorporated those values because they were right.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's a fascinating idea to me that there are somehow some absolutes in our experience every day walking around. You look up, the perspective's always changing. That's why I like architecture. You walk through a building, and as you're moving, everything is shifting and changing, and those lines are changing, the light is changing, and all of that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Parker, I want to finish up with one final question.
Yeah.
Taking us away from your acting, your directing, your photography, and everything else that you do. And also, I want to remind people Saturday, February 15th at the Orinda Theater in Orinda, California, you will be there on stage with Joyce DeWitt doing the stage play Love Letters. So be
Yeah.
sure to check that out. But final question, when you sit back and relax, what do you enjoy on TV? What's your favorite TV shows now and of the past? And what are your favorite movies now and of the past?
Um, when I sit back now, and channel surf, I'm usually not in charge of the channel surfing. That's usually Lisa, who actually introduces me to stuff that I kind of go, wow, all the time. And it's not stuff that I would even consider sitting down and watching, but she gets me sucked in all the time, and I see some beautiful stuff. I mean, traditionally, the shows that I loved were things like Twin Peaks or stuff that's a little more out there. I mean, um, with his passing, Lynch's passing, those things suddenly come back, into my thoughts of a lot of that work that was being done that was really, really revolutionary. Films, uh, I actually love, there's some classics that I love, like my favorite film, for instance, would be The Hustler because of
Yes.
that cast. Paul Newman, Piper Laurie, Jackie Gleason, George C. Scott, to have a cast like that, and each one is doing mind-blowingly good work. And in material that sophisticated and that deep and that complicated, that to me that's film acting, and that those are the movies that made me finally kind of go, oh, there's something else going on here. Maybe this is something I want to be part of. A lot of Newman's work. he just was charting new territory, his own,
Yeah.
Uh, HUD, what a dark project. And he was a movie star playing a dark character like that at a time when the lead guys didn't do that. He didn't cross over to that side.
Hmm.
He's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
So we're right now, in the middle of watching all the Academy Award shows because I'm in the Academy and nominations were just announced, and so we're trying to get through watching all these films. I mean, there were 280 films on our Academy streaming service that I was trying to get through, and I only got through a fraction of them. So and I've been away. Actually, I've been traveling this last month. I've been back east, and the month before I was away with Lisa.
Yeah.
Out of the country. So I will now be able to get caught up because it's just limited to the nominations. But watching all those films, the European films, the feature length documentaries, the shorts, all that, it's just amazing stuff to watch. It's stuff that a lot of it's actually on streaming now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
that's really, I spend a lot of time trying to catch up and watch that stuff so I can vote.
yeah. Well, Parker, I running out of time here, so I want to thank you so much for sharing with us, and I wish you luck with Love Letters on
Yep.
February 15th at the Orinda Theater in Orinda, California. Thank you for sharing with us.
Yep. I hope people will come and enjoy it. I think it's going to be a really special evening. Nice.
And a big thank you going out to Parker Stevenson for joining us here at On Screen and Beyond. Thank him so much for joining us, and love the shows he's been in. When I was young, Hardy Boys, enjoyed that. I always read the Hardy Boy books when I was young, and it was good to see him on there. Baywatch, anything else he was on, he always did a great job. Hope you enjoyed that interview with him, and be sure if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area to hop on the BART, go to Orinda, California, for the Orinda Theater's presentation of Love Letters. On stage, Parker Stevenson and Joyce DeWitt, who was on Three's Company. And it's going to be a great time. 7 o'clock on Saturday, February 15th. Tickets still available. You can check them out online at the Orinda Theater. All right. If you are going to, think of a suggestion of a guest that you'd like to see here at On Screen and Beyond, email it to me at feedback@onscreenandbeyond.com. Love hearing from you. I will do my best to see what I can do about getting any guests that you'd like to see or hear on our episodes of On Screen and Beyond. Be sure to go back. If you're on YouTube now, there's only like 6 episodes up here, past episodes that we've done. And that is just a smidgen of all the over 700 episodes that we've had. And if you want to hear those people, and like I say, it covers a range of Oscar winners and Grammy winners and just Emmy winners, the whole works. They're all there, and actors that you've seen them, you know who they are, but you don't know their names. We've had them all here at On Screen and Beyond, and I hope you'll check them all out because they have great stories to tell, and I hope you'll enjoy that. So, like say, if you're new to On Screen and Beyond, check our rerun section and or some of the past episodes on whatever provider you're getting these from. And I think you'll enjoy it. That's it. That's a wrap for this episode of On Screen and Beyond. So until next time, when we once again take you on screen and beyond, I'm Brian Zemrak. Take care.